8 weeks ago, I decided to work on my very first 3D game. Although I had no idea what I was doing, I really wanted to put myself to the test, and in doing so, I set a 3-month deadline. And aside from finishing this game, my underlying goal is to have something to share with others that will also help jumpstart my indie game dev career. Now, all that being said, I have a bunch of new features to share here today that really took the game to a whole new level, so let's get started. Alrighty, so in the last video, I left off adding some GUI functionality to the game, but realistically, GUI is not my strong suit, and the previous design was pretty bare bones. So, what I did was create a snippet of the game to share on Discord and Reddit in hopes of getting feedback, only to find out nobody was really interested in the game, like, at all. And since this is an idle shooter game, I need to make sure the GUI is able to carry the game by keeping people entertained and immersed in this zombie-like world. But before I can revamp the GUI, I needed to add some more functionality to the game, so I got to work. It was now 3 days later, and I managed to create passive, active, and weapon skills. This was great because it gave a better direction for how the game works and where I should place the on-screen GUI. Passive skills are a one-time purchase that will give you a permanent boost of either damage, range, shield increase, or gold increase, which requires no player interaction as it's passively happening in the background. So the goal is to position this GUI somewhere visible but away from all the action. Active skills, on the other hand, are a one-time ability that triggers when the player taps the icon. So I plan to keep this skill tucked away to prevent the player from accidentally tapping it, but want to keep this skill also in the forefront for when needed. And lastly, the weapon skill is a permanent skill that you can reuse as long as you have the gun equipped. So this skill is pretty much tied into the gun you have, and is planned to be out in the open to allow and promote the player to naturally use this skill as frequent as possible. Alrighty now, after having everything mapped out, I started working on the GUI and found some free assets on itch.io for the guns, but not for the skills. So I kept looking around and eventually came across this website named gameicons.net, which had exactly what I was looking for. This website has nearly every icon you could think of. The site allows you to edit the icons before downloading them, and you can even create and save presets, so you don't have to manually change every single icon before downloading. Even if the art style is not for you, I recommend checking this site out for some references. The next day I imported all of the new sprite assets and eventually came up with this, which looks great, but I wanted to add a more cartoony feel, so I went ahead and colored them in. As of right now, the game is looking great and the GUI placement is final, but I then noticed something. The game has a bunch of on-screen dead space that the player will never need nor use. So I went back to the drawing board and figured it would be a cool idea if the game was played through the eyes of the hazmat suit guy. This idea led me to create a horizontal hazmat mask cutout, which ended up complementing the dead space and gave the game a more polished look. A few days later, I added more stages, fixed some minor bugs, and posted a snippet on Discord and Reddit. At this moment, I realized these simple GUI additions turned my game from bland to interesting, as these posts receive great feedback in both Discord and Reddit. And after reviewing feedback, I noticed the game had one issue. It needed more end-user interaction, as the game seemed way too automated. But now I have a dilemma. How do I go about adding more interactions while keeping the idle gameplay style? It's been a few days and I eventually figured it out. What if you can control the direction of the bullets, like aim the bullets up or down? What if I added zombie crawlers that require shooting down, or zombies with helmets that take no damage when attempting to go for a headshot? This very simple idea turned into a system I created named Shoot Style. This shoot style will allow the player to direct the bullets by tapping on the screen. After I programmed the mechanics, I went over to gameicons.net and added more artwork to represent each style. So I have new functionality, new buttons, but now I have no idea where to place these buttons as I already utilized most of my lower screen real estate. The next day, I realized the answer was in front of my face this entire time. If you look over here, the hazmat face mask actually has a unique shape that comes up in the middle, which I never accounted for. And if I do modifications to the mask, it will provide me with just enough space to squeeze in 3 buttons for 3 shooting styles. So with this logic in mind, I went to modifying the artwork and eventually came up with this. A new face mask cut out with just enough space and within range for the player to reach without having all of the buttons spaced apart. It was now a few days later and I decided to do some more GUI modifications to help better guide the player. Because up until this point, these skill buttons had this weird number on the top left and doesn't really notify the player of what's happening. So what I did was add a bar above the skills button that represents the timer for the skill. So when the player taps the skill or the button, the timer starts and the bar decreases. Also, when skills are ready, it will light up orange, telling the player this skill is ready for use. And for the guns, I did nearly the exact same thing, except I added a new feature where the bar only goes up if you successfully hit a zombie. So instead of having a one-time skill use, the gun can be reused as long as the player continues hitting zombies. That pretty much wraps up the past few weeks of development for Total Zombie Lockdown. In the next video, I'm going to go over adding sound to the game, more zombies, and who knows, I may even toss in a boss into the mix. And as always, if you made it this far and enjoy this kind of content, consider subscribing, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.